The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We would expect nothing less of your good self, sir. Sir, the truth of it is that it took longer to endure that speech than it took to draft the bill in the first place. This is the ultimate nothing bill. This must be an embarrassment to the government. For goodness sake, here we are in the dead of late evening, working to pass a bill how many people actually made submissions on. Mr. Speaker, I hesitate to draw to your attention that only 2 members of the New Zealand public were excited enough about this bill to actually make a single submission. 2. What does that tell you, sir, about this government? It tells you, sir, that Mr. Bishop needs to go back to Northland because he is part of a trend, sir, and that trend is called third-term-itis. This is a government in decay. It is a government that I need to come back to the substance of the bill to describe.
Right. That's exactly right.
And I warrant, Mr. Speaker, that with an amazing bout of perspicacity, I am learning to intuit your body language from the chair, sir, and I think it's fantastic. Sir, can I now come to the substance of the bill, because it really has been an amazing experience to hear the member who previously resumed her seat read out the minister's notes. I mean, that's what we come here for, isn't it, as a government backbencher? Get the minister to pass the notes back and read them out again, just in case any poor, long-suffering radio listener failed to hear them the first time. What a miserable experience those government backbenchers are having. They are seeing their prospects of ever entering the executive in their mortal lifetime slipping away with the current government's poll ratings. Mr. Speaker, back to the substance of the bill. I, sir, thank you, would like to turn my attention to a very important part of the bill, namely the student allowances. I am, sir, the tertiary education spokesperson. I thought it was appropriate to remind New Zealanders that this government is royally dismantling the tertiary education system. It did so by ruining university councils recently. It's done so by gutting student associations, and it's done so.
Point of order, the Honourable Amy Adams.
Mr. Speaker, despite several of your warnings to the member, he still has not in any way addressed the bill, and I'll ask you to bring him back to it.
Yes. Well, I think the question of relevance is a question for the Speaker's judgment, and I will work on it, but without your assistance. David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can lead a horse to water, and occasionally they sip. But, Mr. Speaker, good to see.
Order. Now, the member will now speak about the bill and not about the ruling or the ruled out point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, it is good to see that the Minister hasn't lost her sense of humour, sir. Now, sir, the bill does touch on closing a loophole, and nobody bothered to tell the Speaker who previously resumed her seat that, in fact, the opposition is, or at least the Labour opposition, is supporting the bill. Supporting the bill because, sir, we believe in good fiscal management and closing down loopholes. There is no reason, sir, that students who are eligible for the accommodation allowance should be able to get a different social security benefit just because of a legal error. So, of course, that should be tidied up. There's no debate about that. But frankly, who can blame the students? Because student allowance rates have barely increased while the price of rental accommodation, particularly in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch, has absolutely skyrocketed. Students have seen course fees increase by up to 4 to 5% every year and absorbed a hike in GST as well. Student loans have been cut for part-time students and have been limited for postgraduate students.
Order. The member was, up until the last sentence or so, marginally close to the bill, but when he's talking about allowances and rents, that was probably okay, but when he gets onto loans, I think he gets beyond it.
I follow your guidance, Mr Speaker. I was endeavouring to rebut the point made by the previous speaker that the government somehow had evidence of its generosity to tertiary students. Sir, I would draw your attention to the regulatory impact statement drafted by the Treasury in relation to this bill, which is where the Select Committee noted that only 2 submissions had been received. The Treasury notes, sir, that, and I quote, "Despite small numbers of students being likely to know of the loophole, it is inequitable for the loophole to be left and different payment levels available." Well, so who could argue? Who could argue? But I think the Treasury itself has unwittingly drawn the attention of the Parliament and the New Zealand public to the meta-narrative, sir, that underlies this bill. Here is a government that has nothing to do but push through Parliament legislation that only 2 New Zealanders could be bothering commenting on, and for whom Treasury says students themselves are barely aware of. So here we are, sir, frankly, taking up Parliament's valuable time and your own close attention, Mr Speaker, with a bill which is worthy of the opposition's support, but hardly likely to inspire New Zealanders to give a 3rd term or a 4th term to members opposite who have clearly run out of puff, run out of imagination, run out of goodwill, and rapidly, sir, running out of support.
Stuart Smith.
Thank you,